Hello, everybody. A very warm welcome along to Sportsbet. Paul Alster here with you and looking forward to the weekend action in Britain, where I have the one selection for you. And I have to say that you've probably seen it for yourself. This weekend's racing really isn't a particularly high standard. There's some modest fare at some of the meetings. Certainly, Beverley has a good card with two good two-year-old races and one or two fair handicaps. But the rest of the racing, with the exception of Haydock, is pretty poor. And it's very clearly a case of everybody holding fire, really, until Royal Ascot, which starts on the 20th of June. So we're going to be bringing you quite a few tips across the Royal Ascot meeting. But if you want to really get involved, and I'll be tipping quite extensively at Royal Ascot, where I have a very good record, and of course, at the big meetings, I'm sure regular followers will know, that's when I really tend to make my money and hit the target. So if you want to get involved and join me for the Royal Ascot and other big meetings coming up through high summer, then just check out the link below this screen at Patreon and join me for the premium subscriber service at Out in Front. If you just want to stay with me at Sportsbet, I will commit to at least offering one tip a day at Royal Ascot. And if you're new here, then do press the subscribe button just below this screen as well. Well, I have the one selection for you this weekend. What about last weekend? Well, it was Derby weekend, wasn't it? And I tipped you Waipiro, who ran well in the Derby. He finished sixth, came from a long way back, along with my other selection in the race, which was White Birch, who I tipped it out in front. He managed to run on into the frame. Waipiro just didn't managed to get there, but I thought he ran a very good race, and I think he's, as I think one or two commenters have noted, I think he's a horse who could go very well at Royal Ascot in the King Edward VII Stakes. I think that Group 2 could be for him at Royal Ascot, depending on the opposition, of course, which we'll assess nearer the time. As for my other runner I gave you last weekend, well, it was a close call, wasn't it? Apollo 1 came from a long way back, flew home down the outside of runners, just found the 1-2 good, but at 7-1 each way, you would have made a marginal profit there. So it was a mixed bag last weekend, but certainly not a disaster by any means. So what about my one for you this Saturday? Well, I'm taking you to Haydock, as I say, the only card that really has some quality about it. The 150 race is a 6 furlong handicap. They're forecasting good to firm ground and 14 run. And it is a very open affair. I'm interested to see that they have the favourite here as All the King's Men for George Bowie, a trainer who's doing, so very well at the moment. And this one, favourite with most firms, 100 to 37-2 last time I looked, after running very well at Epsom last week. But that was over the extended mile. And he's coming back here to 6 furlongs, so there has to be a bit of a concern. 7 furlongs is probably his optimum trip. But he's respected. He's coming from a top yard, and they're trying to go sprinting with him, and they've got Ryan Moore on board, so they obviously feel that they've got a good chance of running well. But I think there are some real proper 6 furlong sprinters here. We'll see if he's up to it. And one of those proper sprinters is Mr. Wagyu, who's trained by John Quinn. He's an extraordinary horse. He's won 15 races in his career, and all of them have either been in June or July. He's just a horse who loves a bit of sun on his back, and the midsummer is when he thrives. And it looked like he was really coming to the boil when he was a close third at Epsom behind Badri over 6 furlongs last week, coming home very well. And he could really be quite well handicapped on the best of his form. He's a big danger to all, is Mr. Wagyu. He's the one I fear against my selection. Of the others, well, Lethal Nymph for Clive Cox didn't get the run of the race on his reappearance at Windsor in May, but was a progressive really last year. The trip is fine. I'm just not 100% sure whether he's going to really enjoy the quick ground. An interesting point here is the booking of James Doyle for Julie Camacho on her horse Ratia. James Doyle has only ridden 3 times ever for Julie Camacho, and he's won on 2 of those, so a 66% strike rate. This horse ran a very solid race last time out in a hot Newmarket Sprint 5 weeks ago. He finished 5th of 21 runners there, and they popped the cheek pieces on for the first time, and he has won on good to firm ground. So along with Mr. Wagyu, he rates a danger to my selection. And then of the rest, well, in recent weeks, I've tipped Illusionist to run into a place, Lucky Man, who ran like a crab and was very disappointing, and Volatile Analyst, who was a non-runner and has been a non-runner more times than he's run over the last year. It seems to me they're looking for the perfect opportunity for Volatile Analyst. Just keep an eye on the betting market for Keith Dalglish's runner. It wouldn't surprise me if there was a bit of interest in him. But my choice here is Silver Samurai. Ben Curtis is on board this one for Marco Botti, the Italian-born trainer. And this horse came here to this race in 2022 on the back of a win at Newbury. And he went on to win this race under Ben Curtis in tremendous fashion. It's not often you see a hot sprint handicap and a horse comes there on the bridle with the jockey still to move a muscle at the furlong pole, which is exactly how it was. And he absolutely bolted away once he was asked to go win his race. Now, he went up £5 for winning this race last year and went on to run well without troubling the judge in races for the remainder of the season. Now, he had 6 months off during the winter, came back to run a very sound fourth at Kempton on the all-weather in April off 99, and then was 9th of 21 to probe in a hot handicap sprint at Newmarket on good to soft ground. His latest run at York, well, he never got into it. It was a funny race. And I was watching him, he kept being messed about and his jockey kept trying to steer him wider and wider to avoid trouble. And in the end, he was out in the car park and he just never really got involved. I think you can just draw a line under his latest run. And he certainly wasn't knocked about by William Buick, who was on that day when it was clear his chance had gone. Now, he's come down to 95. They've put the cheek pieces on for the first time just to try and concentrate his mind. He's got a decent draw, and he's going to be running close to the rail, and he's got Ben Curtis back on board, who seems to just click with this horse. So I think there's a lot going for him, and he's got every chance in my humble opinion. So at 8 to 1 each way, and with 5 places, the best offer at 8 to 1 for Skybet and William Hills, I think he's got a big chance, Silver Samurai, following up last year's win in this race. And as long as the ground stays fast and there are no thunderstorms that suddenly turn the ground soft, I think he's going to run really well for you. So that's my free tip for you here at Sportsbet. There's plenty more tips, in fact 4 of them available over at Out in Front if you want to sign up and join right away. But do think very long and hard about joining me ahead of Royal Ascot. And of course, after that, we've got the Newmarket July meeting, and we've got the big Ascot meeting at Midsummer. We've got the Irish Derby meeting, and so many other great meetings like Glorious Goodwood and the Ebor fixture, so on and so forth. But for now, from me, Paul Alster here at Sportsbet, have a great weekend, whatever you're backing, and I'll be back same time next week with more. Bye-bye.